Okay. All right, guys, welcome to the StratiVentures Monday night industry webinar. We have Michelle England here with Trident Capital Connections. She's our guest speaker, and the main topic, preparing yourself financially for new builds, is going to be our key topic. And we'll get started here in just a little bit. So welcome everybody that's joining us. I see a lot of people joining now, the room. So welcome to Tatiana, Rob, Nia, Mitchell, Michelle Ellis, Dr. Wallace, welcome. Dr. Wallace, your plans, I believe, should be out pretty soon here for new construction, according to Ron. I had a status call with him today, so I just wanted to give you an update. Marianne, welcome. Ms. Acosta, welcome. Let's see, Kenneth, welcome. Today you were in our realtor training, so good to see you again, sir. Dwight, wow, we got good people coming in. Miss Brenda and Mark for visiting, joining us from Colorado. Okay, so let's go ahead here and we'll get the webinar started here in just a moment. Feel free to get yourself situated. And Michelle, I'll go ahead and bring you on here in just a second for the share, okay? That's all right with you?
Fabulous, yes.
Perfect. All right, so give us a quick second. Let me make sure we got everything set up here. Okie dokie. All right, yeah, great guys, keep joining in there, guys, for the webinar. This is all 100% for you guys. Okay, Michelle, the Q&A. All right, perfect. All right, there we go. All right, guys, so welcome again to tonight's webinar about preparing yourself financially for new builds. This is the StratiVentures Monday webinar. It's from 6:30 to 7:30 Central, and it happens every other week in 2-week intervals. So today we have Trident Capital with Miss Michelle England, Trident Capital Connections, with the topic of preparing yourself financially for new builds. To get to know us a little bit better, we're going to be talking a little bit at the beginning about the StratiVentures company. Real quick, go into what our mindset and identity is, and then we'll move into the topic information. And that's when, Michelle, I'll go ahead and hand you the reins, and you have a presentation that you want to share with everybody. If we do happen to go over the 7:10 point for the Q&As, no worries. We always have a lot of questions. So that's why it's important that those of you that are joining us ask questions, right? So this webinar is for you. So we encourage questions, and go ahead and put them in the Q&A section of your Zoom dashboard. We don't have any polls at this point, and if you have any internal questions, feel free to send them in the chat. Our moderator, Enid Lopez, is there to answer those for you. Or Michelle, if you and I become boring or I become boring, feel free to hit the leave webinar, guys, and hopefully we'll see you next time when the webinar is how to find $1 million in your bathtub. Just kidding. So next week we'll have another webinar, and you can find out the information at our landing page, investorrealestatetraining.com. Little quick information about myself for those of you that don't know me. My name is Diego Mello, born in Colombia, South America, moved to the States at the age of 4. I live in Houston, Texas with my wife, Kate, and my son, Aiden, who now is finishing his first year at LSU. Prior mortgage broker and asset manager. With that said, Michelle, you being in the residential and commercial lending space in today's world, you are a god, because I would not be able to do that. I was doing this back prior to the mortgage debacle. In 2012, I began investing in real estate and founded my company StratiVentures in 2012. And in 2014, developed a platform which is now StratiVentures. And we launched our company national in 2020, and we hit over 2,200 members in over 27 states. So I'll make that adjustment there. What is StratiVentures? Well, we are a full service real estate investing company, and we handle the 4 prongs that every investor needs to know, that needs to have part of their business. So we have acquisition analysis for all of our members. We have real estate services, which is pulling comps and validations of market data for all of our members. We also have project management and contracting and builder services for every single one of our members. And then we also do funding. So those of you that are wanting to find out more about SVI, simply scan right here if you want to, and get to know us, but also we'll have some more information on how to be a part of the StratiVentures family. This is the core company of SVI. You have myself, our marketing, sales, social media, inspections, construction and design and contracting services, real estate services, architectural, and acquisitions. This is our core team, and they're there for every single one of our members to help build their real estate business. So Michelle, I'm going to ask you a question. I can ask this question to 5 different people, and I ask them, in your mind and experience, what does a real estate investor do? And what would you say?
They mitigate risk.
Oh, okay. Well, we've talked before. That's how you could say it. You're right. So guys, if you ask that question to 5 different people, you're going to get 5 different answers, which in fact, by having 5 different answers tells you how volatile this industry is. And because you have 5 different perceptions of drive, risk, tolerance, ethics, validations, it's really the blind leading the blind. So we have to make sure that we work under one identity, which is the identity of an investor. And most of all is trusting the right vendor, such as, for example, Michelle, when it comes to lending. We do have other lenders in our network, but construction lending is a specialization of Michelle and her group there at Trident Capital Connections. So here's the definition of what an investor is at SVI. An investor analyzes, acts, invests, and makes a profit with one word in mind, and that word is risk. So if you have valid comps by valid realtors and valid repairs by valid and validated and good contractors, you're going to be able to use Michelle for all of your investing needs, because that means it's a low risk transaction and you should be able to obtain a profit. Now, Michelle, I think one of the key points that people are going to ask is the market shifts, right? We're seeing a lot of market shifting rate-wise happening. And so with that, I'm going to go ahead and present you and then hand it over to you. Remember, guys, put all of your questions in the Q&A section so she has the ability to answer them, and then we'll go ahead and get started. So you're president of Trident Capital Connections. You're a nationwide commercial mortgage broker. You founded Trident Capital Connections in 2018, and you've been in the real estate, residential, and commercial lending space for over 15 years. That's awesome. That means you've survived the ups and downs and the twists and shifts of the market. Not that many people can say that, Michelle, so that's great. And what I love the most is your sole focus of connecting investors and builders with flexible alternatives to traditional financing. When you work with somebody like Michelle, guys, when she states here that her perfect client is an investor that finds the lending process to be tedious and time consuming, that's why you need to call Michelle. You're not just borrowing money, you're also obtaining, as I like to say, somewhat of a liaison. Would I be correct to say that?
Absolutely.
Especially with the members that you've funded for us in the past over the years. They love working with you because they say, I got to talk to Michelle. I got to make sure Michelle's okay working with me in this. They're not taking on that role. So Michelle, if you would like to go ahead and introduce yourself a little bit more than what I've said, if you have any general comments, I'm going to go ahead and stop this and move you into now you sharing your presentation. All right.
Thank you, Diego.
You're welcome. Feel free to go ahead and share.
All right, let's see if I can figure it out.
You move millions and millions of dollars. I'm sure you can.
Well, it says on your screen that you cannot start share screen while the other participant is sharing. So are you sharing?
That was my fault.
Okay, so. All right. Well, thanks again for having me. I really appreciate it. And hopefully I can give you guys some nuggets of information. And again, my company is called Trident Capital Connections. I am a commercial mortgage broker. Generally, I have relationships nationwide. And my goal, again, is, like he said, to be a liaison for you to make sure that every product is unique and every lender is unique. And so you need to be aligning each project with the appropriate lender to get the appropriate outcome. Okay. So let's see. Just trying to figure out how to change the screen here. There we go. So my goal here is to prepare you financially for some new builds. We're going to talk a little bit more about me, what we do, my company values. We're going to touch on investor new construction lending 101. What's the difference between horizontal and vertical lending, and the best practices for submitting a new construction loan package. So my goal again is, because I work with the non-traditional bank lenders, the private lenders in the commercial space, I'm generally trying to align you with lenders that are have asset-based programs. The types of programs, not only is it new construction, but renovation, long-term rental holds, Airbnb, if you have multifamily, anything that's investor related is a product that I can normally help you with. So the best always to reach out to me first before you started a project, so we can have a conversation about that. I have my number listed, the 281-415-2488. That is my personal cell. So go ahead and jot that down. I'll also have it up on the last slide in the screen. And then the contact information for my company, Michelle at TridentCapConnect.com. Okay. So what I do, well, aside from planning, the first thing is I'm going to help you evaluate your plan. And this is really, really key to preventing any pitfalls in financial lending. And there can be a lot of pitfalls. Now, I've been doing this since 2008, and I used to work for your traditional banks. And when I came into play in 2008, we all know what happened that year. And so the only type of lending I've ever known is full doc loans. And then in 2018, I transitioned over to the commercial space, which is a completely different type of lending. And because I have all of this lending knowledge, I can help guide you so that you're not running into the, I'm sorry, you don't qualify after you've submitted your file. I generally don't have those issues with my files. You're gonna fund. Okay, so planning is key, again, for making sure you don't have pitfalls, but the structure of your investor project. So what do I mean by that? We're going to talk about who is a part of your LLC. Is it going to be an LLC or is it going to be a corporation? How many partners? What are your percentage of ownership? This is important because every lender, again, is unique in how they tackle that. We're going to have conversation about who wants to be a guarantor, who doesn't want to be a guarantor. What type of percentage is going to require somebody to be a guarantor? Now, in the lending sphere, normally the rule is if you own 25% more of any entity, you will be required to be a guarantor. However, there are lenders that say, okay, we'll just need one person out of the group to be the guarantor and the others can consent. So it's important, again, for us to have a conversation about what you're trying to accomplish, then I can help align you with the appropriate lender. And if your LLC is not set up in a way that's going to be appropriate for any of the lenders in new construction, then I'm going to guide you on what are the things that might need to be switched. Maybe instead of being a 25% owner, they're 24. And doing that one small change is going to open up more opportunity for somebody to be guarantor, not be a guarantor. We're going to look at we're going to have private conversations, each individual about their liquidity, what that looks like, where the money is sitting. Is it in a personal account? Is it in a 401k? Most commercial lenders want your funds to be liquid because you have to use your own liquidity to start the project. You get reimbursed on completed work. So having money in a 401k, generally they're going to want you to take that money out and move that into a checking account in order for it to be usable. So we're just going to have conversations about all of that so we can, again, you can plan on what you have to do before you even start the project. We're going to talk about your credit. We're going to talk about, do you have any BKs, foreclosures? Have you missed any payments? What you think your credit score is, so that we can start to have, again, conversations about who is the appropriate individual, a part of your group, if you have multiple, that has the highest credit score, so that with the lender's going to use that credit score versus yours, that might be 620. And there's ways that we can accomplish that just by the structure of the loan that we're presenting to the lender. We're going to look at your experience. This is really key for any investor. And I think even if you were you were doing fix and flip renovation loans, keeping an Excel spreadsheet of all you do from the day you started the industry to what you're currently doing is really, really important. So when you purchase the property, the full address, the purchase date, what you purchased it for, how much renovation, if it's construction, what the budget is, what you sold it for, all of that is important because the more experience that we can show a lender is going to dictate the better terms, the better rate, and just overall the better structure that the lender is going to provide you. New construction is not cookie cutter, not like a renovation loan. They're going to look at your project uniquely on its own and determine your terms based on what we're providing them. So that's key. So just please start tracking everything. Keeping your HUDs when you purchased the property or the lot, you need to keep all of that data and have it in a file that's easily transferred back and forth between a broker like myself, or if you're working directly with a lender. And then we're going to talk about your project goals. Are you planning on building a property and selling it? Is that your exit strategy, or is your exit strategy you thinking about holding it as a long-term rental? Are you thinking about holding that property as an Airbnb? I am a safe place to have all of these conversations because I am not the lender. There are things that you can say to a lender that would be, oh, I'm sorry, we don't do that here. Whereas if you had the conversation with me, I would know how to structure the package to appropriately accomplish what we're trying to do. So again, it's talking about the project goals. The next step is me evaluating the lender. And based on all that information that we spent and we talked about is going to determine the quotes and the lenders that I'm submitting out to. I'm going to gather all that data for you. Quotes are going to come back, and then we're going to discuss the pros and cons of each one, and you'll make your choice on who you want to work with. And then number 3 is the lender execution, which is all on me. It's submission of a complete, organized, thorough file provided by my company that I'm working on your behalf to facilitate the communication with everybody. It's not just the lender, it's the title company, it's the insurance company. And then providing support for your file even after it funds. If you have questions, let's say you have questions on draws, and you're not getting a response, you reach out to myself, my company, and we will help facilitate and figure out and try to bridge the gap of the communication. So that's really one of the key things that I think that my company provides, is that at all times I can see what's going on in a file because we track all of that data. And so I can tell you if a file is an underwriting, I can tell you if there's a condition that comes out. And what people need to understand about lending is when a processor has your file, they generally have 40 to 60 files that they have. And when your file comes up and they work on your file and they send out a condition, they're generally not going to touch your file for another 3 days. Well, 3 days in my world is an entire week lost in getting a file closed. And so when an email comes in and I see exactly what's needed, there's a lot of times I can actually accomplish and get clear that condition on the same day within less than 24 hours and keep your file moving. So that's kind of what we do. So value, trust is real big on, for me and my company. My vision is to help grow your business. It's all about connections in real estate. It's all about who you know. And I've made the relationships with the lenders. They trust me. They trust my company based on the type of package we put together. They know that I've spent the time and the due diligence to make sure that it's a good deal. And so when we're submitting in, that it's your file there's not going to be any, again, pitfalls because we've done all our due diligence up front. And again, it's all about the relationships. And the longer we have those trusted relationships, the better terms, the better rates, the better process you're going to have just overall. Okay. So new construction lending 101. So let's talk a little bit about the differences between the traditional banks and private lenders with new construction. Yes, you can go to a traditional bank. You'll probably get lower rates than your private commercial financing. However, they're going to require you to fund normally, generally in your personal name, which is again going to reflect on your credit report. You're going to be required to qualify with a DTI, your debt to income ratio, which also requires there's a lot of paperwork involved with that. You're going to have to provide your W-2s, your tax returns, and all of that comes with that, it has to be provided. And then your product capacity is generally restrictive with banks. They might give you enough to do 1 or 2 projects, but they're going to want those completely finished and sold before you start your 3rd or 4th project. Whereas your private lenders, they're going to allow you to fund in an LLC or an entity. Actually, they prefer that. I only have 2 lenders in the industry right now that I work with that will allow somebody still to put something in their personal name. No DTI, so they're not looking at you as the individual, and none of that is at play. It is all about the project, and is that project going to be profitable? And then they're not reporting all of this on your credit report, which is going to help maintain your credit score. And your paperwork is light. Your paperwork is your driver's license. You're going to provide your LLC paperwork. On a new construction project, you're looking at your plans, your specs, a survey, anything that you would need for, building a home. And that's generally it, besides, just showing your liquidity for the project. Your keys to success, again, maintaining your credit score. How do you do that? And we'll talk about that in a second. Your liquidity, having enough liquidity to show the lenders, that's going to show that you have the ability to start that project on your own, because again, it's reimbursement on completed work only. You are going to pay for that foundation to be poured, and then you're going to call for an inspection. They're going to send the inspector out, and then an inspector is going to tell the lender if you've done it or not, and then they're going to release the funds back to you. So again, maintaining that liquidity. Experience, we talked about that, at tracking your experience, tracking your profit, your project profitability on that spreadsheet. Your entity structure per deal, talking about that could be different per project. You could have different owners, different partners, different percentages. Again, so it's the keys to success based on your project, not so much you're thinking you're going to do for the entirety of your real estate career. And then again, no missed mortgage payments. That is a deal breaker in the commercial space. Yes, there's always a lender that will do the one-off, but your terms are going to be restrictive, your rate's going to be high, and your loan origination is going to be pretty costly. So just try to keep abreast of all of that and make your payments on time. So land purchase. In the commercial space, lenders prefer that you already own the land before you come to them. Yes, I do have lenders that will lend on the land as a part of the deal, but they don't like to. And the reason is they don't want you eating up your term waiting on permits. They want the land to already be owned free and clear. They would prefer that your specs, your plans, your survey, all of that already be ready, so that you're not wasting time. Generally, from funding of a commercial loan, they want you starting the build within 30 days. And so that is key. So if it just works, the terms and rates are all better when you have the ability to take down the land first. Then lastly, organize in your complete packet, organization in your complete package. These are the documents that you need to have in a file to submit to a lender. The purchase HUD of the land, you need to have your survey and your permits. Now the permits don't have to be in hand, but knowing at least when they were requested and having a good idea of when they're going to be released is important to know. Having complete plans, specs, budgets, what I refer to as a lookbook. This is not a requirement. I just see successful builders use this. A lookbook is just a visual document of the finishes that are going to be going in your home. And they don't have to be, 15 pages. It could be 2 pages of small pictures But all of that information, the plans, the specs, the budgets, and the lookbook go to the appraiser, and the appraiser is the one that's going to be dictating the value. And all of that helps the appraiser in just coming up with value. You're going to have to document, again, the reason why we talked about before, documenting your experiences. I have to provide all of that experience information to the lender. So we can do that by the Excel spreadsheet where you're tracking it, or you can provide me all the HUDs that you've purchased land or projects that you've sold, all of that together. We're going to be submitting that to the lender. Having an idea of your commercial general liability insurance, as well as builder's risk. Those two insurance policies are required on construction loans. And if you haven't made a relationship, then you just really need to have quotes ready so that we have something to provide the lender. If the property is in a flood zone, flood insurance will be required. Your liquidity documentation, you're generally needing at least at minimum 2 months, most recent bank statements. That is generally all pages of that statement. There are some lenders uniquely in the private space that will allow screenshots, but for the most part, I would just say our rule of thumb is just have the ability to get a PDF off of your bank account where you're pulling that file all pages. And your entity documents, you need your formation, your operating agreement, and your IRS EIN tax number. All three of those are key for providing that into your package for documentation. And then a copy of your IDs, which has to be your front and the back of your ID. That is all you need for a complete package for new construction. So let's talk a little bit about horizontal and vertical construction. Most lenders only do vertical construction. And the other word for that is infill. So you've got your lots and communities where you've got your one-off builds, one-off lots that are available. You're going to go grab that, and then all you got to do is build straight up. You don't have to bring any infrastructure in. So most lenders build on vertical. However, I have a few lenders in the industry that still like to do horizontal vertical builds. Horizontal, so if you wanted to, pick up 4 or 5 acres and you wanted to bring in the streets and the electricity, all of that is available, but there has to be some sort of build component to it. And that's what's key is before you start the project. So you find some lots, we're going to have a conversation about what that looks like. So you really have to have some numbers dialed in on what you think that horizontal infrastructure cost is going to cost you. You have to have dialed in what you think that the cost of the build is going to be and what you're going to be putting there. And then we take that to the lender. You can do it either, let's say it's 5 acres and you wanted to build 40 houses. That's all possible, but you're most likely going to be breaking that up in phases or chunks based on how much liquidity you have, how much your crew can take on, how many builds you can do with a certain amount of time. All of that's going to be at play, and the lender's going to determine what's available based on all of those key factors that you're going to be presenting. But the key thing is to know is that is available, to be able to bring in the streets and the water, the electric power, the sewers, all of that. I have financing for if you have a need for that. So your calculations that a lender uses when they're trying to come up with what your loan amount is going to be, generally industry-wide, is based on your ARV versus your LTC. So your ARV and your LTC is always the lesser of those two calculations, will be your final loan amount. Your ARV stands for your after repair value or your after completed value, right? If it's new construction. And LTC stands for your loan to cost. Your loan to cost is going to be the cost of your land plus the cost of your build. And then your experienced builders generally are going to get around 75% of the ARV. And then your experienced builders are generally going to get anywhere between 85 and 90% for your loan to cost calculation. What the thing is when people come to me, what we have to determine is what is your factor going to be that that lender is going to use based on your experience, your credit score, and your liquidity. And if the higher the credit score, the more liquidity we can show, the more experience we can show, it's going to obviously affect what factor that the lender is going to be able to use. I gave you guys a little example. I thought we could do some math together, but this is just on a vertical build. So if you can just kind of go back, we have 5 lots that you own. You've owned them for 8 months and they're all build ready. So you've already done all your due diligence. You have your plans, your specs, everything's ready. And we're ready to provide the package to the lender. You purchase those lots for $10,000 each. Okay, so 50 grand you spent. The as-is value of those lots is 30. So you got a great deal on those lots. So we're going to talk about, will the lender actually use that 30,000 in the scenario? Your build cost. So you estimate that the build is going to be 283. Okay, simple math times 5,415,000. You think that the ARV of that particular sale of that property is going to be 375 or 1,895,000. So going to number 1, again, the loan to cost is the cost of the lots plus the cost of construction equals 1,465,000. So again, going back to your experienced builders, that 90 or 85% factor, 90% is 1,318,000. All right, now let's look at number 2, your ARV. We said that the cost of those homes being sold was going to be the profit, right? The value, 1,895,000. And that for an experienced builder is multiplied by 75%. So there you go, 1,423,500. The lesser of the two is always going to be your final loan amount. So in this scenario, your lesser of the two is the 90% loan to cost, the 1,318,500. So moving to number 3, all right? If we take that final loan amount and we subtract out your build cost, and we talked about your build cost being 283 per house, that times 5 is the 1,000,004. We're going to subtract that out. You have a build shortage, or what I refer to as an equity shortage, of about 96,500. Now, the key is most lenders, if you move to number 4, this is what I see lenders do. The first lender will require you to bring that 96,500 to the closing table to make your budget whole. Or I've seen lenders build that deficit into a draw reimbursement. So what I say is the key is to find a lender that's not going to require you to take $65,000 out of your working capital account to make your construction budget whole, because all they're going to do is take that money and move it in their equity, their escrow account, and it doesn't make any sense to. So having the ability, so what these lenders are going to do, if you look at the percentage of draws, if you take the 1,318,500, which was again your maximum loan amount, and you divide that by the build cost of 1,415,000, you get a percentage, which is 0.93. The lender, if you look at this like this, if for every $10,000 you request for a draw reimbursement, the lender's going to give you $9,300 instead of the 10. So they're spreading out that 96,500 deficit over the course of your build, and so they're allowing you to keep your liquidity. That is my favorite lender to work in new construction versus the lender number 1 requiring you to liquidate and make your build hold. So your best practices in new construction, for me, that's develop your entity team trifecta. Again, your credit, your experience, and your liquidity. Who in your team has those 3 things? And if you're missing one of those things, then the key is to go find that individual that has that. So if you are a flipper and you don't have any experience, yes, I do have the ability to help you find lenders, but maybe your terms weren't going to be that great. So if you bring on somebody that has the experience, then it's very possible to be able to get, that 90% loan to cost and that 75% ARV versus something restrictive. So develop your entity team, maintain your credit score over 680. Yes, I have lenders that go down to 620. Again, it's always finding the lender. So just maintaining over 680 is generally going to have, your better pricing. If you can keep your credit score over 720, then for the most part, you're getting top tier. They do it in stages. So just try to keep it over 680 and I can get you pretty good financing. Maintain, again, talking about your track record, that's really, really important, which is your HUDs, your agreements, let's talk about JV agreements. So let's say you did a new construction project, but it wasn't with your name on the title or your company name on title, you only had a JV agreement. I have lenders that will use that as experience. So again, gathering all of that data is critical. No missed mortgage payments. Let's talk about best practices on budgets. Build in your contingencies and try not to present build numbers that are under market rate. So when you provide your build budget to the lender, they're going to send it to a team that's going to review that. And generally they are going to approve it or not necessarily decline it, but they might push back on it and actually increase or do a forced increase based on, maybe some deficiencies they see on your build budget. So just best practice is to build in contingencies anywhere from 5 to 10%. Try to align yourself with lenders that do soft pull credit reports. They're pulling maybe your credit report every 6 to 12 months and not doing hard pull transactions every time you do a deal, because then your credit score is just going to tank. And the goal is to keep your credit score up so we can get you the best terms. When you are working with new construction, lenders can vary with your terms. Your terms can be anywhere from 9 months to 24 months, depending on the project. So it really is about how many builds it's going to be. The square footage of the property is going to determine with the lender how long they want to give you. Your experience will determine the term. But generally, the rule of thumb that I say is you don't want to take on a term with a new construction less than 12 months. I like the lenders that have the terms of 15, 18, 24 months just because of market volatility. It gives you a lot of time for your exit strategy. And then have more than one exit strategy to every project. So again, we're going to talk through, if you plan on keeping that house as a long-term rental, we need to be crunching the numbers behind the scenes now based on what we think the rates are going to be. We need to be running what insurance is going to be and knowing what the taxes are. So we know what your DSCR ratio, which stands for debt service coverage ratio, is. So we have an idea if that project will even work as a long-term rental. We need to know, is your plan going to hold it as an Airbnb? Because that's a completely different lender that works with Airbnb projects. And maybe you want to look at a bridge. Let's say, for example, you planned on selling the house, but the house didn't sell. So but you were in a 12-month term, we're going to have to possibly put you in a bridge loan to buy you more time to sell. So just knowing what your options are is key for success, and knowing when to let me know that you need help is key too. So we're going to be discussing all of that. So again, just preparation is key. I'm going to take this time to be able to answer questions in regards to new construction. That's be the easiest way for me to be able to help you guys. The market right now is changing. It's really, really volatile. We went from 4.25% interest rates on a long-term 30-year fixed 5 weeks ago. And right now things are pricing at 7.5%, 8%, with the possibility of things going even higher. So we've been in the market for the last several years of just thinking where we're going to do 30-year fix. And that product is going to have to change. The investor mindset is going to have to change over the course of the next 6 months, year. We don't really know how long this is going to take for then the rates to start to come back down. You need to align yourself with products like an interest-only ARM during this time frame, where your rates might be in the 5s versus the 8, 10% on a 30-year fixed. So Diego, do you have questions for me?
Yeah, we do have some questions. And, you made a very good point there, where if you're looking for building new construction properties and putting them into the rental space, which is highly recommended right now, because you're having a lot more people drive into wanting to rent properties. then building equity is huge, right? That's why we build the properties. The other important thing there is that if you're going to rent it to a one person, one tenant type of scenario, guess what's going to happen there? Then as the rate goes up and you're paying interest only and your taxes and your costs increase on the maintenance side, it's going to really eat up into your cash flow. So that's where you guys have to think very, very careful. Start looking at some products and some types of use, like what we're doing right now, right, Michelle? We're basically driving national market with our co-living units that are being built. And then those we're using Trident Capital for the financing. When you have more people that are renting in a one particular arena, then at that point, guess what happens? Your debt service coverage ratio looks phenomenal, which means you can offset when rates increase, right? So you're giving yourself just a better opportunity to get better cash flow. But you guys are more than welcome to ask us more information about that, and obviously definitely work with people like Michelle.
Now, do you want to read off some of the questions that are on the?
Yeah, absolutely. So I just wanted to basically let people know that that is a very key point to think about. So let's see here, Neil. Hi, with asset-based lending, is there still a guarantor requirement considering the debt is to be based solely on the asset value?
So interesting enough, so when COVID hit, it changed the industry. And in the private lending space, there was generally non-recourse loans. You had your non-recourse loans and your recourse loans, which is basically, again, the term you're talking about, being a guarantor, not being a guarantor. That really went away, and that hasn't really stepped. Now, I have a few lenders that offer non-recourse loans, but your terms are much worse, and so I don't highly recommend them. Now, yeah, you're in these types of loans, being a guarantor, they're going to take the asset, right? Like if you were to foreclose, they'll take the asset, and if you owe anything else, then maybe they'll come after you. It's very, very unlikely though, unless it's a really, really large amount. Generally with you guys and you doing the numbers right as investors, they're going to be able to pay off that house and hopefully not have too much owed. I guess, Diego, do you have anything to say about that? I don't really see many lenders taking people to court.
No, not at all. They're wanting to liquidate. They're wanting to release negative assets, put that money back into circulation, because guess what? We have to start recouping as lenders. We got to start recouping any of that interest that we didn't make over the past couple of years. And that's pretty much
yeah, they're just going to take the asset back, and it's very, very rare that they're going to go after you for anything else.
Exactly. Thank you for that, Neil, for that great question there. Let me go ahead and dismiss that one. You had a follow-up question, is what are the options for getting non-recourse debt?
Again, it's just there's going to be a few lenders, and your terms are just going to be, so your rate's going to be higher. Your terms might be shorter. That's about it. There's nothing different in regards to the loan.
Okay, a good question there. Let's see here. Rob asked, do you have lenders that would fund modular construction? Example, individual units on a horizontal build?
I believe I do on modular construction. I don't have manufactured, but modular, I believe, is an approved build, for some of the lenders. I actually never done one, but I'll have to go check in the guidelines. I'm pretty sure that's approvable.
Okay. Great. Thanks, Rob, for that question. We have an anonymous attendee here asked, what percentage contingency would a lender like to see on the construction budget?
Anywhere between 5 and 10%. Start out with 5, unless you really want to put the 10, but try to squeeze in 5% and hopefully that'll get approved.
Got it. Thank you to the anonymous attendee. Diane Brown, do you recommend inexperienced investors to attempt a new build?
Well, the key word is inexperienced investor. There's so many ways that can look. I mean, somebody that's done a lot of flips, well, they have some experience. So as long as you are hooked up with a qualified general contractor and we're submitting that in your file to the lender, then no, I don't see any reason why you couldn't accomplish a new construction project.
Okay, great. We had some other ones come through the chat here. where can liquidity come from? What is acceptable for to meet the liquidity requirements?
So it needs to be something that you have access to. So stocks that can be liquidated, checking, savings, just anything that you have quick access to, a lender's going to look at. It's just your 401ks and your IRAs, things of that nature. Those aren't liquid. Yeah, they're available for you to take loans out, but unless you're actually pulling the money out and putting it in your checking account, is it liquid?
Okay, perfect. We had another one. Can you fund international entities?
No, the entities have to be here in the States.
Perfect. And what is your overall opinion of the rate hikes? Where do you see this going?
So, oh gosh, I really think that, and again, just my opinion and what I see, that our interest rates will probably be in the 10 to 12% range in the private sector by the end of the year. Just how they're moving up way too quickly, and eventually they're going to start to come back down. But right now, the lenders are trying to start to build in the movement that Powell has said he's going to take. But he said he's going to take a half a point. They've already started to build into that, but he's going to take, he said they could do a half a point again. So I don't know. It's really volatile right now, but we're going to have this rate market for a while. So you just have to know going into a 30-year fix probably isn't going to be the product. And lenders are going to start to align different options. I've heard talk of a 40-year loan.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just things that are going to come. The lenders still want to lend. And so they're going to start to bring out products that are going to allow the investor to do that.
And it's not that they want to lend, Michelle, they have to.
They have to lend.
They have to lend. We have a question here that came through, guys. Feel free to put all your questions in the Q&A section. We'd appreciate that. What are the fees to use your service?
I don't have fees. Generally, I get the lenders to pay me a portion of what they were already going to charge you.
Okay, great. That's to wash, right? We'd like to call that perfect. Let's see. Liani Shao said, how much is the liquidity amount that your average lender needs for, let's say, a new build?
Oh, you're probably looking at 20 to 25% of whatever your construction budget is that the lender is going to want to see. Not only do they want to see that you have the liquidity capital for maybe starting the project, but it's also your payments, your interest only payments over 12 months.
Basically meeting the debt service capacity of your loan. Thanks for that question there. We have Neil asked, are full tax returns generally needed for the last 2 to 3 years? ? What other details typically are needed in the package?
So the beautiful thing about why I do what I do is we don't need to look at your tax returns with any of the programs in the commercial space. The programs don't have anything to do with you as the individual. It's all about the property. And is the property going to cash flow? Is the property going to be profitable if they have to take on that project? So happily, no tax returns are needed.
Great. And JP asked here, when you're working with partners and you don't necessarily want them to know all your financial dealings, net worth, liquidity, etc., is there a way to only share that with the loan officer?
Well, you want to consider me as that individual because I play that loan officer role, mediary. But lenders need all of that detail in order to be able to qualify you. So no, I would be no, I don't think there's any way to get around that.
Right, because I remember from when you would talk to our members, is all the general partners that are going on paper have to basically be you have to know about them, right? You have to know what's going on with that.
Right. We're going to talk. I need to know everybody a part of that structure and what they're dealing. If you want to be a guarantor, you don't want to be a guarantor. If you don't want to be a guarantor, then I need to know about everything about your other individuals so that I can determine how to structure the deal.
Okay. Here we got one here in the chat. It says, what is the common mistake most investors make when applying for a new construction loan?
They just don't have concrete data. Then their data is not organized. They approach the lender too soon. I see that, you know, when we approach a lender, we're going to have all of the details fine-tuned, at least as much as possible, because if there's no reason to be going to a lender for a quote unless you have accurate stuff to be able to present them, or your quote's going to be wrong. Your deal will change, and nobody likes that.
And Michelle, if you could talk to us a little bit about when somebody's applying for a mortgage, or I'm sorry, for a construction loan with you, the expectations of timeline from application to funding if they have everything in place. Obviously, let's say already permitted, approved plans. Let's get the ball rolling. Let's talk about the draw process and what should they expect with you.
Okay, so time frame will will be based on what lender we go to. Some lenders right now want a complete package, can fund in 15 days or less. And then I have got other lenders that are based on capacity and how much they're working on, 45 days. So it really, part of our conversation is how quick you want to be closing something will also determine what lender we're talking to.
Okay, great. And the draw process.
So the draw process, after you've submitted, when you actually have funded the loan, right? That's what you're talking about, Diego?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. All right. So now you have your loan and you're going to start submitting draws. Generally, the rule of thumb is you're going to have 8 draws per loan. That can be changed. I mean, some lenders have an unlimited amount of draws. That really just depends on your project and how many draws you need to take. But you're going to reach out to the lender, generally by an email. They'll generally have some sort of documentation that you're filling for what you're trying to get back on for your reimbursement. They will send out an inspector within generally 24 hours. They'll go out, tell the lender if it's been completed, and 4 to 5 days is generally from the time you've requested the draw, from the time you have the money is the rule of thumb, 4 to 5 days.
4 to 5 days. Some lenders that we've worked with before in the past or still work with, Michelle, they accept pictures. Is that acceptable to some of your lenders?
It just depends on the lender. You know, the more we move into this electronic space, the more lenders are trying to work with that type of media. But you have to understand there's a lot of fraud that happens during that. So there are a lot of lenders that don't allow it.
Absolutely. JP said, sorry, I should have said the lender, right? I think that's where she answered that question there, JP. I just may not want my partners to see my business. Obviously happy to share with the lender. So yeah, share it with the lender, JP. Neil said, great to the no tax returns. He also said, if the no tax returns are needed, what other financials are needed other than the ID information?
So you're going to have 2 months worth of bank statements, your LLC paperwork, which again is your formation, your operating agreement, and your tax EIN tax letter from the IRS. And besides the information on the build, which is your budget and your plans, that's it.
Excellent. And be prepared to order an appraisal, right?
Yes, generally. Yes.
Yeah, generally be prepared to order an appraisal, guys. Right now, I think appraisals, I don't know if, correct me if I'm wrong, because you're in that space. Are we still behind on certain appraisal requests?
Yes, there are not enough appraisers in the industry, apparently.
Yep, there we go. On draws, what are the costs for admin inspections per draw?
Again, that's going to vary per lender. I see an average $250 all the way up to $350 per draw.
Okay. And Eric Rodriguez asked, do you only work with entities or individuals as well?
Again, most commercial lenders want you to be funding in an entity. I only have 2 lenders right now that will allow you to fund in your personal name. And they really highly recommend that you don't.
Okay. David Gutierrez asked, do you have a recommendable appraisal? David, it depends on what city you're in. I know if you're the same David Gutierrez, that's an SVI member. We do have an appraiser in our vendors, network vendors directory in the member center, or we also do recommend using a company called Initech Appraisals in which Alex Massa is the contact. Feel free to reach out to us in Podio, David, and we'll be happy to get you that information. All right. Let's see here. Somebody asked a question. What is, oh no, sorry, that's not in the question box here. All right. Well, that seems to be all the questions that we've got. Michelle, if somebody wants to get a hold of you, there is the phone number, ladies and gentlemen. Also, there is the webpage for her. And then what's your response time?
Oh, I work all the time.
I knew it. I wanted to get that. I'm always trying to tell her, take a break.
Take a break. Yeah, no, just reach
break.
out to me. You know, being in real estate, everything is just timely, and everything's always urgent. So just reach out to me. And if I have time in my schedule to be able to squeeze you in, I will, even if it's in the evening.
Yeah. Also, Michelle, thank you so much for your information. I also want to go ahead and thank some of our other vendor partners and affiliates that work with us at SVI and all of our members. Remember, you can scan the QR code to know more about our company at StratiVentures. And then also, if you want to have a one-on-one with us, if you're new to real estate investing or want to get more information and maybe say, hey, Diego, please tell me the real reason why you use Michelle, we're going to spill the beans, right? Ask those questions. That's what we're here for. Go to investorrealestate.com. And what you're going to be able to do, you're going to be able to have the ability to sign up for your free one-on-ones. 2, have there's a free ebook that I created that you can get, and the girls at the office will send that over to you guys. It's great information. They also told me to make sure I say these things or else I'll get in trouble tomorrow at the office. So I have to do this. Let's see here. Like and subscribe us. That's one of the things they asked for me to do in our social media platforms. If you want to send some general information, send it to info@strativentures.com. If you want to know about our general company, it's at strativentures.com. And then we have free Realtor Advantage training, guys. We just did ours for today, but we have it the last Monday of every month. I believe it's the 4th Monday of every month. You can register at our landing page, investorrealestatetraining.com. And there you can register for the next one that's coming up. It's normally the 4th Monday of every month, and it's from 10 to 1 Central Standard Time. It's amazing. If you're a realtor wanting to know how to work better with investors or even become an investor, highly recommend it, guys. The members training for people that become SVI members, we have them Thursdays and Fridays from 9 to 1 in our members Zoom classroom. Webinars are every other Monday. You can from 6:30 to 7:30 Central Standard Time. And then we have done something on a really neat app called Clubhouse. Michelle, you're going to be one of our speakers, and I think in one of the up and coming clubhouses. Got to check with Oriana. She's going to reach out to you. Okay. And what Clubhouse is, guys, is on your phone. It's an app, and you can type in real estate, and it'll tell you what available rooms there are, people having general conversations. We have our room's called Landing Big Whales, and it's every Tuesday, Central Standard Time from 2 to 4. And in May, we're going to begin from 4 to 6. So Clubhouse is the app, really cool, a lot of great information. They even have rooms there on how to make brisket. I found one out the other day, which was awesome. So it touches all different platforms. So if you want to get a hold of us, there's our contact information. If you'd like to get a hold of Michelle to find out more about her business, feel free to contact Michelle at the information that is here. Let me go ahead and backtrack a bit just so everybody has that. And Michelle, any final words? I'm really excited that you got to do this with us. I've always been planning on having this with you, and you did amazing. I just want to let you know that.
Thank you. Now just reach out to me so I can answer all your questions.
Yep. All right, guys. Thank you so much, everybody. And don't forget to like and subscribe us. We'll see you guys next time.
Bye.